to F&B. So it's not assigned here, but nonetheless, it's on the agenda, we can touch on it. And I will distribute, some of these resolutions we're about to talk about have been distributed. One of them has not been, so we're not really in a position to discuss it thoroughly without having it. If we need to have another special session next week, we will. I'll send the poll out to see who's available. I realize that might be a bit of a pain, but so the special appropriation, you heard Monica say that what this is covering is the combined Reed-Hildebrand proposal as amended and discussed by Monica just now, plus Redness and Mead. And I guess they rounded to get to $1,425,000. I believe the Board of Selectmen has already processed this. It's come to us, and I think the Board of Finance has already approved it as well last night. There's no action to be taken. I do have it now. I can distribute it, and I'll take a poll probably Friday regarding whether or not folks want a special session next week to discuss this and some of the other items. The Board of Finance does have discretion to bond this at $1.425 million. I think they voted on that as well. The second item relates to rescinding $11,693,633 from the original bonding resolution. F&B will be explaining this to the RTM on the 17th. The gist of that is, not the gist, I've got it. I'll circulate this as well. $91,771,367 was appropriated for the purchase of the 68 acres to begin with. $11,693,633.79 remains unused, and so rather than let it sit out there, it's being rescinded. It's something that was not necessarily been practiced very consistently in the past, but I know F&B is pretty consistent that this be done. Board of Finance is in agreement. Board of Selectmen, I presume, concurs, and so the Board of the RTM is going to vote to rescind that authorization. So any future project spending will have to come before this body and get reauthorized again. So I see that as a good thing.
Mark, just as a question.
Yes, sir.
This also to me seems like good housekeeping, just to clean up the gap. However, if we didn't do that, and someone were to try to spend something in that 11 million allowance, would that additional spending also come before the RTM? We'd have a chance to approve that or not? Or is that something that once we've approved that 11 million, the town has kind of a blank check for that amount?
From what I understand, I'm going to let F&B elaborate here, but my understanding is that bond resolution is very clear as to what it can and can't be used for. The purchase, certain activities related to getting it ready.
Right.
So is it a blank check? I wouldn't use that term, but could it be used for additional activities that fall into that definition? I believe so. I'm not clear on the mechanics as to whether or not a particular project that falls within that definition would have to come before this body. This tightens that up. It can't. Nothing can be done without coming before the various bodies. So your question is a hypothetical. It's not going to be a possibility,
Right.
unless this fails.
Understood. Why would we not simply spend the 1.4, 1.5 million, whatever it is, as part of the 11 million, only rescind 9 million?
Yeah, my personal view is that it probably has to do with why leave it there and have the possibility of it being perceived as a blank check. Let's just shut it down. Good housekeeping, I think is the word you used. Let's shut it down and not have the possibility of second guessing, why was this done, why was that done?
I'm not against.
Yeah, I understand.
proposed. I'm just trying to explore what the.
Yeah, but I'm trying to answer a question that I am out over my skis on a bit.
Thank you.
Mark,
Yes.
what I heard sort of in the banter was that precisely that there was a question of whether or not it could be used. And so to remove that ambiguity, just rescind the excess amount. And as good order should be, each allocation or each expenditure that needs approval should then come before
Yep.
the RTM as it normally would in the course of business rather than. So I think there was a slight difference of opinion, and what I understood was, hey, let's just clear the deck and we'll just deal with each thing, which I think is the right way to do it.
Right, rather than have the ambiguity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is, I believe there are 3 easements for Hanson Road. I actually did receive those. I will distribute those. Those easements all relate to the bridge. I understand they all involve, quote, private property. One of the properties is the country club, but it's not, none of it's town property, so it's easements necessary to extend the railing as required by the new regulations on that bridge. So F&B, I think P&Z and F&B have been assigned that. Nonetheless, I'll distribute it for this committee to take a look at.
When is work supposed to begin on that, Mark?
I don't know.
Okay.
It was supposed to be in May.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, no, well, it's clearly held up because of this, but I think it's ready to go.
Okay.
These
That's what I
have to be
understand.
approved for Ed to be able to go out to
Yep.
bid.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if he hasn't
This is
bid
what's
yet,
holding it up.
then
I thought he'd gone out to bid subject to.
not to
I
my
don't think
knowledge.
so.
No?
I didn't think so. Either way, I can't proceed
Yeah.
Yeah.
without this, so this is a cleanup. I'm actually happy to see that they got things completed.
Yeah, I was too.
The third one, I don't have a resolution for, and it's not going to be coming before this committee. This is going to be F&D as well. In case you're wondering why these are on here, when I issued the agenda, I had to be prepared in case Rules Pat assigned it to us, distributed material. My hope was going to be, well, if we were assigned any of these, we could address it, get the material out, address it, and be ready. Well, none of that happened, so now I'm sort of going through something, an irrelevant item. But what that one relates to is for one of the developments downtown, the Corbin property, there's something called, what are the bonds called? There's an energy incentive regime that's in place, PACE. I believe Jack tried to give a thumbnail sketch of this at Rules. And so there's some PACE financing in place, which allows high level, the lender to have the municipality collect its payments alongside your tax payments. And so it allows them a real, it's an incentive to have lenders feel like to be prioritized in their security interest, right there alongside taxes or even, above a mortgage. What's coming before us, because that was amended once, Jack wasn't crystal clear, at least in his explanation, as to what exactly is coming before us for an amendment, but he described it as a very minor amendment, but because I put it on here, I figured I better tell you what it is. More to come on that if I get that, we'll all get that resolution, but high level, that's what it is. It's a financing vehicle for certain energy efficiency or renewable energy elements of a project downtown. It's come, and a first amendment was before this body a few years ago. I didn't even have any recall on. But this is a second amendment to that.
Mark, does that imply, and I apologize if this is something that's already been covered, what are the renewable elements downtown? Is it wind, is it solar, are there other?
I don't know. I don't think it's wind, I don't see anything.
I can't see a big turbine in this.
I don't know. I don't want to talk about what I don't know.
That's fair.
I hope I do it quite well.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But, so it's on the agenda.
Members around, yeah.
But I don't know what it is. I think it's energy. If I had to guess, I shouldn't guess, I don't know.
I mean, I'd expect obviously solar is the one that's growing.
It could be any efficiency. It could be efficiency. It doesn't necessarily, from what I know about the program.
Generation.
Yeah, it could be efficiency. It's all dictated by the technologies that the state is sort of advocating or supporting. Okay, so those are 3 non-items for us.
Did not do anything with it?
Yeah. So, let's be candid, the main item tonight was
Yeah.
the session earlier.
Yeah.
And our select, Monica agreed to come and do a firsthand presentation. Adele had reached out looking for an update. I was gonna do one anyway. I'm like, heck yeah, let's get the chair to come and do it. So I hope that was helpful.
Mark, was this the clear decision? Was this, once you narrowed it down to down selected to the 6, like, did this one really stand out, or was there kind of dissension amongst the
Yeah.
committee as to whether? go with one versus
There was no, I wouldn't call any of what transpired dissension.
Okay,
I think Monica described it, and I think I personally described it as splitting hairs.
okay.
I could easily have gone with regard to the finalists, one way or the other on the final couple. I shared with you what really pushed me over. Those of you that have worked with me over the years I've been here, when it comes to a major decision, I tend to err on the side of local talent, as long as it's comparable.
Mhm.
This was easily comparable, arguably superior, but that's in the eye of the beholder. But being able to navigate all the different authorities and commissions and the regulations. Here in Connecticut, you've got the municipality, you have the state coming down, and then some of the environmental commissions that transcend both, or have duplicate, I shouldn't call it duplicate, similar roles at the local level and the state level. It was crystal clear to me, as I listened to the presentations, those consultants or those staff members of those committees, of those respondents to the proposal, that had local knowledge. And anyone who's done any sort of home building project or something like that,
Yeah.
or trying to put something near water, wetlands or anything like that, you better have local knowledge and local experience. It's my personal view.
Yeah.
That wasn't necessarily the biggest driver for everyone in the room, but top quality talent was a driver for everyone in the room. And so there was no, my personal view is that there was no dissension in that, oh no, A or B. It was more to the point that several of those were A or B good. You asked me who I want A, and it came
Right.
down more to that,
Okay.
very much to that. Good question though. And that's what I was driving at the end when I made the comments. I actually like when I work on a committee with people I don't know their background, don't know. Because you really, I think gives you an opportunity to evaluate objectively what you're seeing, what you're hearing.
And were they throwing out at this phase, I know it's super early, but it sounds like a lot of what we're talking about is sort of process and expertise and all that. I mean, were they sort of spitballing ideas as far as like, we could do this, we could do that, or does that come later? Just kind of curious, I mean,
Yeah.
pickleball court or this or that.
Yeah, so that comes later.
Yeah,
That's
naturally,
the way that our people set up, as I said in there, and I think as Monica touched on. We drove, and the respondents responded, input, and community involvement, process, digest. Out of that, with the overlay of what's there already, regulations, rule, the plan of conservation and development, all those factor in.
yeah.
Yes, put the wetlands, parking, all those things will factor into.
Right.
But the community engagement, and what moved me was getting folks in different settings and getting them out there. The question that, you asked the question, is what Reed Hildebrand, several could so to answer, getting people to experience it, whatever that means. I mean, to me, it might be I want to see the water. To you, it might be I want to see the horses. I don't know, but it's something different to everybody. So how do you do that?
Well, how do you do that if they really can't get
No,
there?
you made a good point.
If I may,
So,
I had the opportunity, as with an invitation from Monica when we were looking into the purchase of the island. And she had asked me if I wanted to come over and join in with a tour of the island. And I joined that tour. And that was much different than what I think people are seeing today.
Yeah.
Because the people today are confined basically to the roads.
Yep, I agree with you.
And what I saw was a lot more than what's just on, what you can see from the roads. And so, yeah, I agree with Patrick that a more involved opportunity for people to see more of the island, I think, is important, however that can be organized.
I don't disagree.
And I conducted a number of tours for the Public Works Committee. I don't know if any of you all went. Okay, and that was emceed, if you will, by the agent.
Yeah.
And she talked us through a lot of what was there, and we actually went into the house and saw a lot of that.
Can we do that again?
Well, I mentioned it because that was a great experience.
That was RTM, I'm trying to remember, I don't want to, get bogged down on this, but, I mean, I was on those too, that was RTM, the RTM. Yeah, that was the RTM, so, showing us the thing again, it doesn't necessarily do, it's.
No, I'm talking
it's the other
about a
5,000.
similar type of thing for the public in an organized fashion,
Yeah,
That's what I had to do that with the agent, is to organize
And maybe that's
one of
be a few
those
times.
tours.
yeah.
Okay, we had to limit the amount of people for various reasons, but those who came got a very nice walk through the island and a better understanding of what's there.
I think what Mark said earlier, maybe if Channel 79 went out there and they did a
They-
tour.
They did that. They videoed an expanded tour at the time when people were, when they had the public out there for
Yep.
tours. So if anybody's really interested, they could just find that video.
But it's not this, to be honest, it's not the same.
Yeah, it's-
Once you've done it, it's not the same.
I get
So,
it.
I take your point, I think Monica heard your point, Adele is on this as well. So, what can be done? I don't want to commit to anything, but it would seem like it was able to be done for the RTM members. More of that would seem like it's possible.
Mark, on a personal note, what could be done to extend the walking area? Why can't we go to the beach? Why have the barriers and keep people from at least walking to the beach area? And there's even another kind of, I don't know, pathway toward the sound in Scott Cove also there that could be opened up. And we're not talking about people sitting there looking, walking, experiencing more of the island. Why block it up?
Yeah, those of you that have watched the GIAC meetings, this has come up multiple times, almost verbatim what you've asked,
Okay.
and various versions of answers along the line of, is the path compliant with what we put in the parks? And then someone will say, well, Woodland doesn't have,
Yeah.
what type of park do you get? So, that's been talked about. Are there hazards?
Yeah, I would think that would be overriding.
It's a hazard getting out of bed every day.
But I mean-
Right, but as a municipality, this is
Walk
all-
at your own risk, big sign.
Yeah.
I hear you, but these are all things that have been
Well,
floated.
it's a road, it's a roadway kind of, it's a
Yeah.
rough roadway to the beach area. That certainly could be walkable without creating a lawsuit.
No, the committee's wrestled with this almost verbatim, this conversation.
Sure.
Wow.
And
frankly, erring on the side of being cautious. It's unpleasant. It's not.
Well, as the representative on the GIAC or whatever the current acronym is, clearly you're going to continue to wrestle with this. But if we're about to drop $1.5 million and on developing a proposal to spend $30 to $50 million, I'd suggest pushing the limits away from conservatism a bit more.
good point.
Yeah, no, it's building. It's recognized, it's building. This job's getting harder. But understood.
That doesn't mean we don't trust your judgment.
No, and it's also not
Yeah, okay.
my purview.
Right, you're one of
I'm
the
one guy.
This is the committee.
But
No, or the committee's judgment. I mean,
Yeah,
look,
yeah, understood.
the work that's been done is phenomenal. It's just, if we're gonna take input, you gotta have real input.
I agree. I don't disagree, and I think I've said so to the GIAC. what they're wrestling with is, it's not that nobody wants to do it, it's wrestling with how to do it.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
But if I might, that's one of the reasons why I'm concerned about the rush to come up with a plan. I think it's,
Right. It's-
12 months to come up with a plan. When we were doing those initial walkthroughs, a number of folks said, and RTM members, I won't quote them, but we all sort of agreed, let's not rush through this. It took 25 years for Waveney to develop to what it is, and they were just sort of walking trails up there, and it evolved into, and it's taken a long time. I don't want it to take 25 years, but certainly 12 months I think is way too fast. Because if there isn't enough access, I think you're rushing to check a box, or you're rushing to get it completed because of under pressure, rather than really letting it develop and letting it evolve to what naturally it more naturally it might be.
Yeah. What I'm hearing, and I recognize, is that the combination of the restricted access coupled with any sort of, I won't say any timeline, but a timeline that the less access you have, the more compressed it feels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's,
Or fewer people are making the decision, and I think that we all agree as a community that that wasn't the intent.
right. So then it comes down, partly in my head, to that experiential, I keep using it, and I can't remember again.
Experiential.
Yeah.
But I think
But that's
probably,
that's like
it's true, it's a mashup, but
it's a small sampling. You're not going to get
Yeah.
a large cross section of town. So I would bring that up directly again, but within the context of hearing directly from a lot more constituents than from a lot of folks have emailed that mailbox. Monica say 70 some odd. I think there's probably more than that now. But the GIA, the Great Island mailbox, I didn't realize it. I was getting emails. I'm like, people sending so much to me. Get them again. We get the emails.
They just forward them all to you?
I don't know if they get them all. I get a lot. So
Focus area?
focus areas. I don't have on this anything specific, but I didn't want to just march through a meeting and not give each of the focus areas a chance to speak. I have nothing on budget and finance. We just finished the budget. Thank you very much. Roads and sidewalks. We went over the budget, what's being done. That was broken out there. I do see Ed's team marking the roads. So if someone's going to ask me, has that started? The answer is yes. The call before you dig stuff is out on a bunch of the streets. So usually what he does is once school's out, you'll start seeing the crews out there. I haven't got a firm date from him, but that's his MO. Before I move off that, I'll move off.
Well,
Anything on that?
Staying on roads and
Yep.
sidewalks, is PIAC dead?
PIAC is, no, it's not dead.
Hope not.
No. So I do need to get the first selectman to come talk to us. We kind of got bumped with some of the GI stuff and the budget
Gee, I
stuff.
can't imagine why.
Yeah, I think I got it, but yeah,
Because there's.
I had him scheduled the day that Ed came. And
Okay.
and I chose Ed.
Okay.
So I will get that rescheduled. I don't want to do it.
Well, this budget that was just passed, I mean, that's
done.
on its way. I'm looking at.
You're looking at
the
next year's.
Well, I mean, our hope in passing that last October, as we discussed, was that we'd get more consideration of sidewalks and pedestrian infrastructure into the budget cycle that is just now ending. So I feel like that's been partly achieved, but not in a kind of a comprehensive, holistic way, the way we had.
Not in the way that was.
Well, yeah,
it actually got zeroed out.
it got zeroed
No,
out.
no.
So-
Yeah.
But it got zeroed out because it's already funded. And the
Yeah, but
project's
it's already
been done
funded because it's not,
Because it hadn't
it's
been
not
done.
being spent.
During COVID, yeah, but you're right. Yeah, right. The
Thank you.
projects are being done.
But
not
looking
abandoned.
ahead, there's $750,000, if my memory serves me, for sidewalk rehabilitation in the 25-26 budget.
Yes,
So,
yeah, if I recall, it was flat.
yeah, I don't remember
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah, but I think it was-
All I know
roughly
is.
flat. Yeah, it was roughly
Coming
flat.
out.
Well, you need a good quality sidewalk to keep kicking the can that far.
So,
I would
that's all I'm gonna
suggest-
say.
Don't
So
want to twist your ankle.
Exactly.
You got me with it.
maybe the trail's a little rough and we gotta, not allow the
Yeah,
dogs.
yeah,
So I will pick that up. I will reach out to John and get him rescheduled.
I would also humbly request that when we have Ed back, part of the update includes how he's deploying the capital he's given against that plan.
Yeah, I'd like to be a little preemptive, so to speak, seize the moment and say, this 750, what's the plan?
What's Ed doing with it?
Right. And how does
Or-
it?
I'd even go a step further, be a little prescriptive, say, we think these are the
I
priorities.
was just gonna, I agree.
All right,
Do
well,
this thing.
So I agree with
So-
Frank. I think, look,
Right.
these
So-
these are the priorities that we think you ought to have.
okay.
So I would,
And that was what we had said last time.
the way I would do that is to say to Ed, please explain how you're spending against this plan. And the answer may be no, then fine, that's a dialogue point, but maybe he is.
So what I'd like to do on that is the last time this came up, is I wanted to get the first selectman in here because Ed takes his direction
Right.
from the selectmen.
Mhm.
So they're seeing, he's presenting what's on his priorities, they're approving it, presumably, not presumably, he's taking his direction from them. So it's that philosophy and that direction that I want John to share with us and for us to communicate. We've got the recommendations out of what was done last year. He has that, I shared that with him, even though he really went to the board of selectmen when he was there. He has it, we talked about it. So that is the next step, is to have this conversation with where Ed is getting his instructions from. Because Ed's not gonna budge, it's not up to Ed. It's, you know,
And I think
We all know that.
We understand that, and no one's faulting Ed on this. And I mean, candidly, I can be frustrated with the speed of the process, but I'm not faulting John either, because John's not an expert on sidewalks.
Understood.
But you gotta have a process, and I think we as a group requested that the PIAC get reestablished
Yep.
8 months ago in order to provide additional hands and feet to move the process forward, and that hasn't been done.
The PIAC was, if I remember correctly, it was prescribed in it wasn't in the POCD, but it was prioritized. After the PIAC, there were a whole list of things that were supposed to have happened that just sort of just stopped.
Yeah,
And I think it was partly because of COVID or whatever else.
But it was recommendations to the board of selectmen, is what it was.
Right.
And that's-
Which
Right.
got preempted by COVID, probably. I mean, that's what we'll say. That's what I'll
Right, but
believe.
COVID now is 4+ years in the rearview mirror.
So I will put that back, get him,
Thank you.
pick that up where we left off, because that's 3 months ago, we dropped that.
Thank you.
But do we have another meeting before the summer?
Right now, I think we have one scheduled
I mean, we have them scheduled, I guess, every month.
every month.
Right.
Usually we suspend them, but let me see when I can get him. And, right, let's go with that. Otherwise, we're looking at September, which isn't necessarily end of the world, but if we can get them before that, and this committee wants to use one of our regular scheduled meetings for that, I'm fine with that. That's why they're on there.
Well, I think moving, again, I don't know that we want to convene a whole group just to talk about sidewalks, right? For
That could be
in
a
the
fun
middle of the
session.
summer, it could be hard to get warm and stuff like that.
Worst case is September.
But at the same time, if we were to do that, that allows John and whatever administrative apparatus he needs to go through the process of setting up the PIAC and maybe recruiting people in September and having people ready to go on a faster timeframe.
Well, I don't know if it means setting up the PIAC or acting on recommendations of the pre-existing report and, you know, a review of those priorities as done by the focus group of this committee a few months
Right.
ago. Right, I hate to reinvent the wheel.
Right, well, exactly. And I think when we voted to recommend the reestablishment of the PIC last year, the whole idea was that that again, this would be additional arms and legs to help.
Right.
the selectmen.
Because if there's going to be receptiveness to it, there's going to be receptiveness to the original plan, receptiveness to the tweaks and to the recommendations last year, or there's not. Reconstituting a committee to do it again is just another my personal view of it. Another, I don't want to say delay, but another, it's going to have the effect of another delay. Rather, so I'll reach out to John and get that rescheduled. Sewers? I'm still on sewers right now.
I am.
Okay.
The only thing I would say on sewers is, as I think most of you might be aware of, if not, there is a application pending for the development on Thorndale Circle, which is behind Nielsen's,
Mhm.
175 apartments,
Yes, thank you.
okay? And part of what they have to receive approval for is sewer capacity to support 175 residential units. And so the commission, I believe, will be engaging in a third-party review on the plans that are submitted by the applicant for the sewer plan for that development. And this is actually somewhat new ground for the sewer commission to have a third-party review. This is something that they set up, I believe it was last year, as a result of the Sedgwick application, which was kind of a fiasco. They did get a third review on it, but the town ended up really paying for that. So they put in a regulation where they said, okay, we need to do this in the future, but the applicant's going to have to pay for it. We're not going to pay for it. Okay.
And is that relative to the idea of not just get the applicant to pay for it, but to get a higher level or a more in-depth study done,
Well,
or
what
not
they're
to
gonna-
tax the resources of the sewer commission?
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's partly yes to defer from the sewer commission itself to have to go through the whole thing. And rather than do that themselves, give that off to another engineering consultant, okay? In this case, it's Arcadis, who's doing a lot of the work around town. But what they're gonna do is they're gonna audit what the applicant's engineers submit. They're either gonna say, yeah, this makes sense, or it doesn't. And and the reason we think it doesn't is as follows, okay? And then the applicant will have to respond to that. They also have apparently some meters that have been installed to monitor the amount of flow that's going on presently, okay? The other concern, I think, is also the fact that they would be tapping into the same pipeline where all of the development on Corbin Drive will be coming through, which goes to the Stony Brook Pump Station.
So,
Okay. Which is
a
like
proper study is
one of,
warranted
if not
regardless.
the busiest, if you will, pump station in the town,
I got that one.
okay?
So a study's warranted, in all likelihood.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. On the sustainability and environmental front, I've been communicating with Susan Cameron. Is, I think, Paige updated this committee last month. The swap shop has reopened. They've got, they tried a different approach where they have designated drop-off times. The idea being to limit limit the times where people are dropping off and could potentially be picking up. You have designated drop-off times and then, I'll pick up times, but regular swap shop hours that it's open. In speaking with the staff down there, just anecdotally, they're noting that it gets very busy right at the end of the drop-off times. And so the reason it's an issue for staff is a lot of cars are showing up right at drop-off, which I guess, I'm trying to recall exactly what it was doing, but the regular hours were maybe right after the drop-off time, I think is what it was. And so folks were coming, dropping off, lingering to be there for the pickup. And so one of the answers that Susan has is to shorten and move the drop-off times. Staff is concerned that the concentration of the drop-off times even further, mostly on Saturdays, is going to further aggravate the traffic problem. It's not just a volume problem. What's happening is, as you all know, there's only, 8, 10, 12 spaces over there in front of the swap shop, so cars stop and wait. And nobody cares, there's a line of cars waiting behind them to go dump their solid waste. And then, I guess the issue is, people get frustrated and they go around the barricades and park over there where all the material handling, staff call them the cans, the big containers, because those get picked up on Saturdays. And so now if there's cars there, the haulers who come in to haul it away now have to wait for the people to move their cars, and that's aggravating those vendors, plus it's costing them time and money. So, got a little situation brewing there. While the concept was a great idea, the implementation has some issues. So Susan's reached out to me, I think she wants to update me with her version of what's going on, but that's what I got from staff, is that it's being run much better, generally, but there's little bottlenecks with the traffic that's causing them problems with doing what they need to do to run that facility. So more to come on that. I know Paige was gonna do an update, but she couldn't make the new time here.
So on Thursday, tomorrow morning, when I make my first delivery, I should be okay. It's Saturday, that's the problem.
It's Saturday apparently is the day.
Okay.
So I appreciated the feedback when I asked, but boy, I opened up, sometimes when you ask the right or wrong question, I couldn't get out of there. I was like, I gotta go. But I do give the volunteers credit that they got that swap shop. I want to repeat what Paige covered, but I was amazed at how much work they were doing to get it ready. Pretty fancy swap shop.
Well, while we're on transfer station,
Yes, sir.
does anyone know if we've got a new contract?
Yeah, I do not. I want to check in with Ed. I know that it's 30th, I thought, but yeah, I don't know.
It's up at the end of the month, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I wasn't sure whether it was June 1. It's July 1?
Thought it was June 30.
June 30. Okay, so we got another month.
Probably
So
follows the fiscal year.
It's early.
Yeah, I had it just June 30. Coastal waters? Anything?
I haven't got any.
No. Did they do a tour of Great Island? Do you know? Coastal waters? Did they do a tour of it? Okay.
I don't
Maybe
know.
they had.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, a special tour?
No, I don't want to put disinformation out there. They did a cleanup. I thought it was Coastal Waters that maybe sponsored a cleanup
On Great Island.
on Great Island.
No.
Have they submitted any recommendations about the impact of
No,
opening up
not the
Great Island?
GIAC. No, they monitor, like, they actually are at the meetings sometimes listening. But no, nothing, as far as I'm aware of, nothing's been submitted. I think most organizations are aware that the consultant process in phase 1 and phase 2 is going to be information gathering. I would think any organizations, that's going to be their forum to get their input out there, heard. But to answer your question is no, I've observed them attending, but nothing's been submitted, recommendations. I think they did mention, I'm almost certain there was a communication about wanting to sponsor a cleanup and getting permission and doing a cleanup. And the last thing is flooding. I did speak with Ed regarding the heavy rains. I can't remember what date it was, a couple weeks ago. And he had no trouble spots to report, which wasn't the biggest of rains, but nonetheless, there was a time around here where rain like that would cause problems down in the heights. I remember that vividly, so I always just check in with him after a major rain, but
Because
no
what was
issue.
notable about that was the intensity was almost tropical.
Yes.
Yeah, it was very
Whereas
intense.
the duration was not as bad as what we've seen in the past.
Right, and those of us of a certain vintage on this committee, like you and me, remember vividly, a downpour like that would create a rapids down Hollow Tree,
Yep.
right? And
Fill up
all
the
the
heights.
roads and Sandas and every time.
Yep.
And so, breathe a sigh of relief, something like that doesn't happen now. Clearly, we haven't solved the problems across town, but that's at least one identifiable change for the better.
So, if I may, Ed, I believe, is obligated by state statute to issue an MS4 report once every year, and his report would be due this month. MS4 drainage.
That's of the catch basins, right?
Primarily, yeah, but there are other aspects to the program. You know, educating the public, try and help the public, but of course they won't go on private land, but, you know, do pickups. So if you have a stream that runs through your backyard and you see that it's got debris, you want to pick it up and get rid of it, you put it curbside, they'll come pick it up, that kind of thing, to help make sure that the waters are flowing.
I've never seen any outreach on that, have you?
Nope. It's all in the MS4 report, so when it comes out, I will be keeping my eye open for it, and if I see it, I'll read it and I'll send it out to everybody.
Okay, I'll be reaching out to them regarding understanding the easement, so I can point you away.
And the other thing I would mention just quickly about the, sustainability environment. The state senate passed a bill to add to recyclables food waste.
I saw that.
And-
Did they get that from you?
Yeah. And it's still in a pilot program type stage right now, and it's gonna go to the representatives for a vote. So it's not been totally adopted yet by any means. And of course, it has to be signed by the governor as well. But part of what's written in the language is that by 2028, they are thinking to make it mandatory for municipalities to institute a food recycling program.
Which, from what you sent to me, ours would qualify already.
We have a program, but we don't have a mandatory of every residence that has food waste to bring it in.
Got it. I didn't take it to be mandatory that everyone has to participate. I took it as being mandatory you had to have a program. Did you take it differently? I mean, I hear what you're saying.
I'll reread it, but,
Yeah.
I definitely got an impression that it was to, have like the carriers now pick up recyclables,
Right,
okay?
yeah.
So you would
So
conceivably have
mandatory composting, basically, is what we're talking about?
food, yeah. And then it also incorporates restaurants and other
Yep.
institutional type food.
I'll
Schools.
revisit that, Rolf, because I didn't see the
Schools.
granularity.
Maybe I read into it more than I should have.
Well, I'll reread it.
Okay.
Because those are all details that will matter.
Yeah,
I took mandatory to be, maybe I've seen too many mandates come from the state where they mandate a high level, and then the details of how to implement it and enforce it.
well, I will say this, the state's not prepared for it.
I would think most towns aren't either.
There's not anywhere near enough facility to take
No.
in all of the food that would be
Yeah.
generated to go into.
I'll reread it. I'll reread
recycling.
it and see what's behind it. 'Cause I would be curious. I took it high level to be that a mandate was coming to come up with a program.
Well, the institutions, I think that's definitely in
Yeah.
the word, for sure.
Yep.
So, schools, adult homes, anything like that.
Yeah.
Rolf, as a point of information, right now, for example, with, say, cans and glass, as a resident, we have metal and glass recycling in town here.
Mhm.
Is it mandatory that for all residents to separate your stuff and put it in the garbage? And separate your recycling from your garbage? Like, you're technically breaking a municipal statute if you put a can in the garbage?
Well, we have a recyclables program that is in effect with both, people who come into the recycling center as well as carriers who pick up. Now, I don't know if that's optional or mandatory. I'm not sure about that, but I know that that's happening every day. Okay, our neighbors have two pickups. One is for their regular garbage.
Really?
And another one is for their recyclables. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've
That's what I go through.
Yeah,
What's so unusual about that?
Oh, I thought you meant 2 pickup trucks. I'm like, wow. Okay, no, you meant
No, no,
pickups.
no,
Okay, no, I think
Two garbage trucks picking up.
Oh, sorry.
Picking up different things.
It was a press.
With different- different-
So here's the difference.
No, same carrier.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, we got garbage on Tuesday, recycling on Friday, this is really normal to me.
That's not that far-fetched, though. I bring my own.
Yeah.
So when you said pickups, I'm like, okay, well, I know people have pickups, but why do they have 2? Wow.
Maybe I had a.
Pickups, but
poor
people
choice
that
of
service
words
have 2
there.
different pickups. I got it.
But again, the town has the program. to
Yeah, the
recycle.
town has a
But I
recycling
guess my question
program.
on the more kind of established things like paper, glass, plastic, you know, is it mandatory for residents, kind of under, in theory, under pain of a penalty or
Penalty,
law?
honestly,
To-
Yeah,
recycle
I don't,
your
I'm not aware that it is. That's a good
yeah,
question.
I'm not
but
aware
It's
of
all
that
voluntary.
either.
It's all voluntary.
Yeah, pretty much, but,
Yeah, I mean.
but the problem is.
I mean, we do as a matter of public record, in case it's. We haven't been like this.
You gotta run for public office, is that it?
The problem is, there's less and less places for all of this garbage to go.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
you know, they have to start to do things to reduce the amount of garbage that goes into incinerators. And this is another possibility of how it could be done.
Fair enough. You got me thinking, though. I'm gonna go read what you sent me a little closer. Did you send that to everybody?
No, I just sent it to you and Chris.
Okay.
I could send it to everybody.
Would you mind?
Sure.
I distributed the May 8th minutes. Are there any questions, comments, concerns on the May 8th minutes? I'll take a motion to approve the minutes as that. Second? Frank? All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you very much. I hope you found parts of this evening worthwhile.
Motion adjourned.
Adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you all. Oh, one other thing, Carol.